there can be a dark side to female nature, a manipulative side to female nature. A lot of guys get bitter and angry and resentful towards women.
What I like to say is you have women and you have ladies, and there is a lot of women who are horrendous, that do express a lot of negative traits. The same with men. There's men that are leaders, that want to do good in the world, and then you have men that are shitbags, that are murderers, that are thieves, that are arseholes.
There's their expectations, what women should be, and then over here is the reality.
You get me completely wrong if you think that I don't think that men lead. That's not correct. I believe that men are accountable for women's actions because
baby boomers are so destroying your lovely furniture in your amazing house. I'm so sorry. Kick me out immediately, sorry. This is probably worth more than my life. Judging by your house. Shit. Fucking. There goes my YouTube revenue for the year.
handsome motherfuckers is what we are.
I was hanging out with someone today who was like, you're getting on an interview with Elliot Wise. He's a handsome motherfucker. That's literally what he said. Like verbatim. He literally said that. So I was like, oh shit. But there's another okay, this is one of the reasons why I messaged you about a week ago. I saw one of you had a reel come up on my Instagram feed, and obviously we know each other. And I saw you talking about like the male female dynamic stuff a bit. And I'm like, you know what? You're saying some stuff that I think is very interesting. I think a lot of, and you take a stance a lot of the times, which is like you might say like anti red pill. If I was going to frame it a certain way, right? You might say it that way. Maybe you don't say it that way, but you might. And it's like, I think that's a very interesting conversation for you and me to have.
I'd love it.
Because I'm ostensibly red pill, manosphere guy. Ostensibly. Well, that's where I come from. That's my fucking circle. That's most of my audience. That's kind of, and to be fair, I align with a lot of that thinking, right? But we align with all this stuff. But at the same time, we clash on some of these perspectives.
I actually wholeheartedly disagree that you're red pill.
Okay, cool. Let's go down that. Why? Why am I not red pill? Let's go.
So for me, red pill is someone that doesn't have respect for themselves. They are very they are very insular, and so red pill is more than just the kind of relationship dynamic. Okay. Like it extends to a lot more. Okay. So let's define terms, actually. So that's
cool.
Better thing. So for me, red pill is, like I said, someone that believes that they should pursue themselves at the expense of everybody else. They have nothing but they disrespect most things, and including themselves, and they trade a lot of the things in their life for money and power at the expense of the things they initially got into those things to achieve. So, for example, like I talk about the 5 pillars: mindset, health, personal image, relationships, health and fitness, right? And those things all link to, basically, people end up just trying to sacrifice all, they want a good-looking girlfriend, eventually a wife. They want the cars, they want the nice body, they want to look fantastic. They make money to try and achieve those things, and in doing so end up sacrificing all those things for the money.
Because they put that as a priority, they sacrifice it.
And it's like bodybuilding, right? We end up, okay, the better analogy is like, we get into bodybuilding typically because we want to be more attractive to the females.
Right.
And also to our, we want to impress our mates.
Right.
And then what happens is 3 gym sessions turn into 6 turn into 7. We then end up eating 7 meals a day and never going out and socializing.
There's no
and then all of a sudden, like all of the things that you tried to do it for to start with, you end up sacrificing.
Right.
And I think
that's an interesting perspective.
Red pill has become very toxic in the same way when it comes to money. So we try to make money so we can have better relationships, we can have better friends, better health, but all these things, and then we end up sacrificing all of those things because we work late nights. We end up damaging our relationships. We fuck our health to try and make more money, and that becomes the toxic focus. And that for me is red pill.
Interesting. Okay, so
that's a bit broader. We're talking more on the kind of female male.
But So now I understand when I see you use the word red pill, I understand what you're talking about. So when the school that I come from, school of thought that I come from, originally the term red pill was only applied to male-female dynamics originally, and since then it has been adopted it's been adopted for pretty much everything, and it's to simply mean the unveiling of truth. Because the original analogy is from the Matrix. It's
anti-system.
It's like here's a truth that you didn't know that existed. Here's what you were taught, and then the red pill over here is what the actual truth of this whole scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Be that, like, you could take a red pill on women, you can take a red pill on the financial system,
mm-hmm.
you can take a red pill on whatever. So there's different people use that term, like, oh, I'm red pilled on insert something here. So they use it on a lot of things. So that's good to know that you're defining it in a very different context to what I originally.
But let's take it back to our potential discrepancies on.
Yeah, good, because I want us to like have a bit of disagreement, because we agree on we agree on the things that I like that we agree on, but I want to actually disagree with you on something, Elliot, because that makes a much more interesting conversation.
I would welcome it.
I think it might be the women's stuff. I think it might be like the relationship dynamics, or maybe the male female dynamic stuff that we might disagree on. Because you're a married man,
mm-hmm.
happily married, kids, and you've been so for a while, and I'm the perpetual bachelor, trying not to be. I'm trying to avoid that, but it's obviously a different lifestyle, different perspective, and we definitely both come from different perspectives.
Yes,
me being degenerate perspective, right? And you probably not so much. I like to hope so.
No, I'm not as degenerate as you.
Good,
I would say.
Good.
I hope.
Look, my assumptions are standing true. So, a lot of the way that one of the key ways that I help a lot of guys is to help them take women off of a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of us were raised with these false assumptions about women being sugar and spice and all things nice, and they're these infallible creatures that can do no wrong. They never tell a lie. There's this, and there are. Don't get me wrong. I love women, and I love the fact. Like, I think women are these nurturing, beautiful beings. Like, they're our mothers, they're our grandmothers, they're our wives. So they give birth to society. But to deny the fact that there is both a light and a dark side to female nature, in the same way that there's a light and a dark side to male nature, right? Men can be providers and protectors, but the dark side is they can be violent. They can be tyrannical. They can, conquer nations, right? There's the dark side to us, right? But I think people try to conveniently forget that there can be a dark side to female nature, a manipulative side to female nature. And I think a lot of guys get bitter and angry and resentful towards women because they have a false assumption of how women are. So there's their expectations over here of what women should be like, or what they've been taught that women should be and how they should behave. And then over here is the reality. And this gap between these two different places causes all that resentment. And this is when you get guys on the internet who spurg out and are women-hating and misogynist. I mean, I get called a misogynist, but they're the real misogynists. I'm a fake one. They're the real misogynists. They have this very visceral hatred towards women in a lot of ways. And a lot of these guys are my fans, my clients, whatever. And I just wish that people could understand that your frustrations towards women are purely because you have a false understanding of female nature. That's my philosophy around how we fix that. Maybe, do you have any opinions on anything I've mentioned there?
My opinion of what you just mentioned is that where this falls down is that we as humans tend to be too binary. You grouped women as women and men as men. There is massive varying degrees of men and women. And what I like to say is you have women and you have ladies. And there is a lot of women who are horrendous, that do express a lot of negative traits, that have come from bad backgrounds, that aren't good people. The same with men. There's men that are leaders, that want to do good in the world, that are honest, that do have integrity, that do have respect. And then you have men that are shitbags, that are murderers, that are thieves, that are arseholes. And to group them all together is quite dangerous. And for me, it's not about the fact that men have necessarily got it mistaken. It's that they didn't necessarily attract the lady, they attracted a woman, or they didn't necessarily know how to get the lady out of the woman.
Yeah,
I think this is where people go wrong. I am massively open to the fact, and have seen and experienced and have been with women that are fucking horrendous. And if that was my only experience of women, I would fucking hate women. Right. And I've been through periods of my life where I have been an arsehole to women because of the way I've been treated by women. And I've hated myself because of the way I was with women, to my visceral reaction to the way they treated me. But because I was toxic internally, every time I look back at when I was a bad person and my life was in a bad space, was because of how I was feeling in myself. At the times I've been operating on a great frequency, I've been doing good and I've been a better person. I've been fighting for my country or fighting for something that I love, and I'm in a really good spot. The people and the things I have around me have been better. And when I am not good, the people and the things in my life haven't been good. Right. So I think fucking full accountability of it. So the guys that blame the women for the shit that they've got, they simply deserve it because of who they are.
I do agree with that. Like, I do agree with the concept of like you attract what you are. I do agree with that. And it's like there's a subset of guys online who are like, you know, I'm not going to date a girl because they're not the perfect virgin trad wife or whatever like that. And it's like, okay, like I think that what you, the categories you might have just described, like there's women and then there's
ladies,
the ladies, and then there's other women, right? Or whatever you want to call it, or whatever categories you want to label them as, right? Like, I agree with the critique that there are a lot of women who are maybe damaged or maybe have compromised values. You know, they're not. There's the hoflation concept. You're familiar with the hoflation concept? Okay, yeah. So we live in a society with a lot of women who would not measure up to our grandmothers. Let's just say that, right?
Fair,
right? That can be a factual statement. That can actually be. I think that is a true statement. At the same time, men are shitbags too. Like you kind of get what you get to do. And I'm not gonna like I'm not a quarter of the man that my great grandfather was. And I know this because I've known my family history. You know, like I ostensibly know this. He went to war. I know, like he was. You know, I've got family members who are literally in Gallipoli. I know this, and it's like, could I have done that at 18? Shit, I don't think I could have. The man I was at 18 was nothing compared to that man. So okay. So if I'm being honest with me about who I am or who I was at 18, whatever, right? Maybe guys who are making these comments online right now, who are taking that same perspective, you get, to a degree, you get the women you deserve, but not necessarily. It's not just individually on an individual level. It's also on a societal level. So unfortunately, we have to deal with the ramifications of we're a society of shitbags. Like we all are collectively in this together because unfortunately, and maybe it's no fault of our own. We didn't create the society that we're currently born into. Maybe our parents did, right? Or the grandparents did. We've inherited the society. Okay, but how many of us are, you know, Alexander the Great? Not many of us. You know, we haven't lived up to the ideal that we're demanding of the opposite sex in a lot of circumstances. That's not to like obfuscate women of their, like, they still have responsibility, even though they're allergic to it. Like they still have like their role to play. But we let them, and I say we let them because women only have, and this is a bit of a controversial thing today, but women only have agency when men allow it. If you really think about that for a second, like there's no society on earth that has like women don't get rights unless men permit them because of violence. If you strip away civilization for a second, what's left? It's violence, right? And who's better at violence, men or women? Men are significantly better at violence than women are. So men will dictate, to use polite words, who has sexual access to women, right? So we currently live in a society. I'm not saying I like that we live in a society. I like that we live in civilization. I think this is a good thing. But we have to understand that women's rights to certain things and women's behavior is still implicitly dictated by what men are permitting.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
People misconstrued my message in me and they think that I am putting women on a complete pedestal and almost like I'm supporting feminism.
They're absolving them of all responsibility.
In fact, it's completely the opposite. What I'm saying is that you have full accountability because I believe men lead and women follow.
Right.
So through your actions will influence the women's behaviors. The same way, if you're a boss of a company, you're the sole leader and proprietor of the culture, the feeling, the movement of that company and everyone within it. So you get me completely wrong if you think that I don't think that men lead. That's not correct. I believe that men are accountable for women's actions because they respond to the way we act. So for women, and women as a society, as you rightly put, have become less, it's because of a response to men becoming less. So it's on you, motherfucker, to step up your game.
Yeah.
And that's not just one man, that's all men.
Yeah, it's a chicken egg kind of question. Like who has to go first?
Well, by your definition and my definition, we do.
Yeah. Well, you're never. If we sit around waiting for women to go first, it's never going to happen.
No, it's not.
It'll never happen. That's just true. Like because they are, like we said, that women are allergic to accountability, but it's also not their role.
But do you not?
It's not their role to be accountable and take responsibility.
But do you not also agree that we go back to the whole fucking UK situation, right? And Australia situation where men have given up hope because they lost respect. If we as men respected ourselves, our houses, our country a hell of a lot more, we would have a far greater intolerance of anything less than exceptional. So women that act in a certain way, that don't act like ladies, that do act like arseholes, and we have this hoflation issue, that would disappear because we simply wouldn't tolerate it anymore because we have a higher standard for ourselves.
Yeah, well, I disagree that would be the case because it's game theory, right? There's always going to be a sneaky fucker who will accept less than us. Like there's always going to be, because there's always a stratification of male competency, right? There's the guys who are high achievers and then there's everyone else. It's always like a Pareto distribution, 80-20 with everything. So you're always going to have a majority of guys who are not as competent, who are not as attractive, who don't have as much status or whatever, who don't have abundance is a better way of framing it, I think, who do have a lack of abundance, who will accept subpar standards from a woman to engage in a relationship with them. So that is kind of like that's the dam holding back degeneracy is like the minimum standard for the lowest tier of men. That's actually what stops degeneracy. If we went back, 1918, right? What was the lowest tier of man in society? What was the standard he held for a woman? That would again, hoflation. That would probably be significantly higher than what the average man today, not the lowest tier, but the average man today would have for a woman. So it's the correct. The thing we need to analyze isn't what we would even care about. It's what that the average or the lowest tier of man in society is willing to tolerate, because that is what is going to dictate women's behavior.
But what I would also say is that men are inspired by other men, and we are competitive beings. Men are inherently. Now, let's just say there's 100 of you in a house, and you all live together. And for this particular house, 50% of the men are fucking gym goers. They eat well, they look good, they work hard, they have good money. They will bring the average of the entire house up because everyone will be influenced by the caliber of men in the house. The same way as if you had another house where everyone's inherently slobs, doesn't work hard, doesn't really give a shit about themselves, the average caliber of man across those particular metrics would fall. So what I'm saying is if men as a whole started to improve, even the leaders, I would say our caliber of leaders and role models have fallen, which means that the lowest caliber of man has fallen, which by your definition, and I don't disagree with you, means that the lowest caliber or whatever caliber of women can take whatever man he wants at that level is the problem. So once they're going to hold men accountable. And I like holding men accountable because we have fucking power over that. I don't like giving power away to something else I can't control. Call me narcissist, call me whatever the fuck you want, but I want to believe that I can control the outcome. And I think that we as men have a obligation to raise the standard of men so that we can all improve in every realm in our countries, in our households, and as a race. And going back to what we said before, I became utterly embarrassed to say that I was English. I have American friends, very wealthy, very successful, and they were coming to the UK, and they romanticized over where they were going to go, how beautiful the country was going to be, the kind of people they were going to meet. I'm thinking, fuck me, if they go to the local Tesco's, they're going to see some absolute atrocities, right?
It's not as bad as a Walmart.
So I was already trying to prime them disappointment that they were going to encounter. And in that moment, I realized how embarrassed I was. And also in that same moment, I realized that I don't want to be someone that just allows this shit to happen. If I'm embarrassed of my surname, I'm embarrassed of my country, if I'm embarrassed of my people, I'm going to fucking change it. Period.
Good.
And I think that boils down to everything that we have been talking about today, whether that be relationships, because whether that be country. It's on us. It's on you, people fucking watching this today, to change your beliefs, to change yourself. And in doing so, everything else will change. It's not someone else's problem. It's yours.
You have to go first. Right? There's no other way. It's like,
and this is, I actually love this, all these alpha men that preach all this, like, I have power over this, I'm control this, I have all this money. Yet they blame, especially when it comes to women, they blame everything else other than themselves for the women they have in their life. But they seemingly have this narcissistic control over everything else but that.
Right.
So are you not accountable for anything that's going on in this world? That's you too.
I think there's room for critiquing women. Like again, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here for a second. I think there's room for critiquing like a subset of society separate from the women that you choose. You like if I have personal.
This is why I define ladies and women.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. if I have certain criteria for the women that I allow into my life, that's up to me, and women can choose to participate in that or not. And they do, and it's kind of it's really a perfect example of this. Actually, a perfect example of this. So I have a video on my Instagram that I posted it multiple times, and every time I post it, it gets just such hatred. And it's me talking about like I probably wouldn't entertain. It's me advising guys to not really entertain pursuing a woman. And to be fair, I made this video when I was like 32, 33. It's me, but I'm older now. But it was me telling women.
I wouldn't know.
It was me telling guys, look, I probably wouldn't pursue a woman that's older than 24 if you're like in your late 20s. Because, if she's been in university, that's 4 years of indoctrination. If she's been in if she's been in some kind of white collar profession like a law degree or like business, banking, finance, whatever. She's been around a lot of masculine energy, and she's also been indoctrinated by things like DEI and all this kind of stuff. It's like, okay, look, it's probably statistically, maybe you found the one unicorn who's not, but taking all probability into consideration, it's probably better for you to take a woman who's younger and hasn't had her entire worldview shaped by gay race communism, right? It's probably a good idea. And I get a lot of hatred for that. I get called a pedo for like telling guys, look, it's okay to like date a girl who's like under 24, even though Leonardo DiCaprio does it like every year. He's magically not a pedo. But I am if I suggest other men who aren't Leo do it. If I suggest the average guy behaves like Leonardo DiCaprio, heaven forbid that they're all pedos. But I forget where I was even going with this. Sorry, Elliot. I lost track of what even got on that train of thought.
He just got down the pedo route and was
yeah. Look, I'm saying I'm not a pedo. That's what I'm trying to get across.
Oh, fucking throw me off completely.
Sorry, my friend. Didn't mean to do that. Because you were talking about everyone. You were talking about all of us taking responsibility, and I was talking that's right. I was talking about having a certain that's what I was talking about. So it's okay. It's different between I can have a certain standard for myself and what I accept into my life, and I think every guy should have standards in general for what the kind of women they allow into their life, and that is different from looking at women in society as a whole and seeing a trend and critiquing that trend, which is what I see I think a lot of Red Pill podcasts do the latter. But in their personal life, they hold women to a specific standard, and they will allow or not allow those women to come into their life. And then they'll look at, but then the women that they're talking about in the general sense, they're critiquing.
I see one of the biggest issues that's risen recently with this whole debate around, the red pill side of males and the degeneration of females is a lot of men have become expecting of something better.
Right.
And it's in the same line with a lot of men and boys have expected the fact that they should be a millionaire because they see some fucking Chinese kid on social media at 16 as a billionaire or whatever.
Right.
And we've created this society through social media, through the media, that they don't have to fucking work for anything anymore. And then they're disappointed at what they get.
Yes.
And I think that has become a massive problem in the critique of women because, as you said, I have the highest standards for women. And when I was choosing who is now my wife, fuck me, she had a ridiculous amount of hoops to jump through because my criteria was through the roof. And I'm going to say this completely, not humbly at all, I believed I was at a caliber and at a level of my life where I could dictate those hoops.
Exactly.
And look, had I not been, she wouldn't have been able to jump through them or wouldn't have jumped through them. She would have said, fuck you, I'm not jumping through those hoops because I'm not going to pursue you.
Correct.
So if the beautiful thing about us is that if we want to have those standards and we want to attract someone of that standard,
we can.
We can if we become someone deserving of it, which I love the empowerment of because then it falls on us to make that change.
Yeah. If you can't attract...
And this is why, sorry to cut you off, is why I think you are so not red pill, is because when I watch your content, you help so many men become better.
Right.
And that inspires me because I look at your content and you give out tons of value on how to become better men. Not just to manipulate women, but to actually become someone better so that they will find you attractive. The same way that if you want to earn more money, build a better business, become a better entrepreneur, work harder. It's the same thing. You want a better physique, go to the gym more, eat less, eat right. It's the exact same thing when it comes to women. But for some reason, this whole notion of actually working on yourself to get a better woman has been lost. Why?
I think you can tell where you're at as a guy in terms of how attractive you actually are by, like you said, those hoops that you set for a woman. Are women actually jumping through them? Yes. Are they like you have a certain standard as a man? Are women qualifying for those standards? The women you let in your life, are they meeting those standards? If none of them are willing to abide by your boundaries, well, that says a bit about you as much as it says about them. Like, and you can make an argument of like, oh, you're attracting certain types of women. You can make that argument. I think that's more of an argument of strategy and tactics. Personally, I think there's a degree of, you can find better quality women, better caliber women with better tactics. Personally, I don't think by necessarily being the best kind of man, you're magically going to attract the best women. I think you do need to have some degree of strategy and tactics,
Of course.
but at the same time, I will say that if you think you are at a certain standard as a guy, and you're finding none of the women that you are attracting are meeting your criteria, then you're probably not where you think you are. Because I know from personal experience, I can, over the last 4 years, the standards I can have for a woman that I allow in my life increase every year, and magically the women that are in my life meet those standards. It's not hard for me to set a standard now and have a woman meet it. If I say jump, she says how high, effectively. And that's only been since I have worked very hard on my wealth, my network, my health, all these things. Like you said, you do have to go first. You have to put the work in. I agree with that.
And I think sometimes your content can be misconstrued as like some magic pill where you can manipulate women into thinking you are something that you're not. That's not true. You can fugazi and fugazi or whatever the fuck you want a woman to maybe initially think that you're of that caliber. But let's be real, if you move in with that person or things progress further, they're going to find out who the fuck you are very quickly, right? Yeah. And I've known you for a little while now, a couple of years. I would say you've become more of a gentleman every time I've met you, and I've seen your content actually progress online. And it doesn't even shock me at all that you say that you can now attract a higher caliber of women. And I have no doubt that you, as a person, based on your criteria, and even the way you talk about yourself, your country, and everything else, you can attract whoever you want. And this is what I really want to drive home to men, is that the amazing thing about life is you can have whatever the fuck you want, whether it be money, freedom, women, if you just stop blaming everybody else and expecting everything and actually just start putting the fucking graft in.
Yeah. It's like, you might be correct. Like, let's just take a hypothetical scenario. Like, if you're a random spurgy guy on the internet, you might have the best argument on earth about why women are trash. Like, you might have all the stats, all the data, like everything that you say is 100% factually correct. None of that is going to make a woman suck your dick. None of that. It doesn't matter. Like, none of that matters. What matters is how you affect people, like the impression you give to people, the persona you present, the image that you present to the world, like what you actually are, what you've accomplished. So, like, the thing you can actually work on is yourself. You can't, like you said, you can't dictate any of this external stuff.
But also, you can actually liken women to cars. Okay, here's an analogy for you. I don't want 99% of cars. So I work fucking hard to be able to afford a Lamborghini.
Right.
And I also know there's not many Lamborghinis on the planet. I'm going to be buying one of 600 on the planet. And that's the one I want.
Yeah.
And you know what? Because I worked fucking hard, I can have it. The others all might be trash. They might break down. They might be useless.
I think the Lambo probably breaks out a bit more than a Toyota.
But fuck me, it's a nice car, and it's one of 600. And because of what I've become and who I am, I can buy that one. And that's the one I want. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, if ladies are 1 in 600, I want to be the man that can attract that lady. And that's going to be the thing that I focus on because it's the thing I can control. Mm-hmm. I can't control the rest of them.
Yeah,
I can control me.
Yep. Exactly.
Off camera, do you not agree that? Honestly,
cameras are still rolling, right? Yeah, I'll cut it. Keep asking questions.
When I speak to you now, from when I even spoke to you before in Marbella, I see a completely different person.
Really?
I feel like you are now someone that I connect with way more. I feel like
Yeah, but I think it's because we know each other better.
no. I think you've changed as a person.
Really?
You seem more grounded.
Huh.
You seem more in touch. You also seem more sympathetic, and you also caveat things a lot more because it seems like you care a lot more about other people. Whereas before, I didn't notice you making those caveats.
Shit. I think maybe the caveats.
No.
Probably more from
No, it's respect.
Getting my YouTube cancelled a couple of times.
No, maybe, I think it's respect. Yeah. I think that's a part of like. I think you've grown up. Like I say that like not trying to patronize at all. No. I like the way you're going.
Oh, good.
I see you now. Someone as I could literally have in my house, have a drink with, which we are, and I like that. Huh. I've seen like a very positive. You see your frequency's higher.
Interesting.
You seem more grounded. You seem more stable. You seem just more focused.
The only thing that I will say that
you seem very sure of yourself in a very narcissistic way.
That you kind of took the words out of my mouth. But it's not even that I'm more sure of myself in terms of like women or like business, anything like that. It's literally been a rediscovery of like pride in
I fucking feel it.
In myself, in my ancestry. It's literally been that.
When you walk through the door, your energy is like infectious.
Well, I'm home. This is home.
And
you know what I'm saying?
And this is the thing.
England is home. Even though it's not my home. If you talk to any Australian, anyone who's from Australia, when they land in this country, or Ireland or Scotland, depending upon where their ancestry, it feels like coming home. Even though this is so physically different from Australia. Like, it's fucking rains here for a start. It's so visibly different. But you drive down a country lane and you see an old Victorian-style house, and there's no other way of explaining it than blood memory. You feel at home. That's why I'm home. It's why I feel like I belong here. So I'm walking into your house. I know, but it's a silly thing to say. But that's the only way I can explain it. It's blood memory. It's home.
Like you said, the sad thing is these guys that have brain drained the country, that have left, come home for Christmas.
And they miss it.
And they go to their family home that, may have been completely humble and nowhere near what they live in Dubai, this $20 million mansion.
You can't tell me that living in a fucking apartment building on the 30th floor is better than living in a little country cottage in a lane, on the like touching grass. You can't convince me that living in a fucking penthouse is better than living in a little cottage where you can touch grass. You will never convince me.
No fucking way in a million years. Yeah, and they know it too. And when they come home, they feel it.
It's a cope. They're trying. This is why you'll never get me to live in a city again. I spent 2.5 years-ish in Miami in a fucking 28th story apartment. I cannot stand not living on the ground. It's a weird thing.
I live in a field.
Yes.
There, I own that field. I own the land behind me, and I wake up in the morning and there's fucking deers running in front of my garden. The biggest scare I ever have is when I walk out in the morning if I'm going on like a long trip, and the fucking stag's behind me, like sniffing in my boot while I'm trying to load my stuff in.
That's amazing.
That's how I want to live.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck what anyone says. They talk about greener grass. Doesn't get any greener in the UK. There might be something in that.
That should be a slogan. That is quite literally a campaign slogan.
That's going to be on a fucking t-shirt.
That's a slogan. The grass isn't greener than the UK.
It's fucking true, though. Let's be honest.
It's quite literally true.
Mate, that's an absolute honour.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me into your home.